everybody. Welcome back to another Vendor Voice. We're super excited to be bringing to you the guest we have today because today we're talking software. And I know many of you have all the burning questions about software, especially as it relates to running your business. I got Jason on. Jason, how are you doing today?
Good, Chris. How about you?
Good, good. Let's talk software, Jason. I want to get going by just making sure that our audience recognizes that you handle all partnerships as a manager through FieldEdge. So all of FieldEdge's partners that you guys work with, you head up all of the management of that. Tell me a little bit, Jason, before we get going, a little bit about your background before we get started.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Chris. Grew up in the industry. My dad was an electrical contractor. I grew up riding in his truck every day. So I know the industry well. I have a sales background myself, been at FieldEdge for about 6 years, very involved in the industry. And so I know the industry well. I was one of our trainers here, so I've spent a lot of time on site with our customers, teaching them how to use FieldEdge and understanding how their businesses work. So I love it. Never want to work anywhere else.
Sweet, awesome. Well, let's talk software. I mean, gosh, there's seems like every time I turn around, Jason, there's a new software. In fact, just this morning I was on with someone who said to me, "I'm not trying to develop a competing software, but everything that it did, I could definitely see that they were looking to get into the space." What is it that you feel is so important when it comes to software that companies decide to choose to run their business on, whatever platform that is?
Yeah, I think it depends on the business and what their goals are. I think we need to reverse engineer how we think about software because a lot of times we approach software from, what features can I do for me? But in reality, we need to look at what are your goals as a business owner? Are you wanting to stay about the same size and revenue over the next few years, or do you have massive growth goals? Are you wanting to expand into a different market? Are you wanting to hire a lot more employees? Figuring out what your goals are and then developing a tech stack that fits to those goals because there's a big difference between someone who plans to go from under a million to 10 million in a few years versus someone who's under a million who has a goal to be 2 million in 5 or 10 years. And you need a software that can handle the requirements that you need as you grow your business. And so I think, business owners need to think about what their business plan is and then find a product that's able to grow and scale with what their needs are. And I think that's what makes FieldEdge so valuable is that we're able to really like take any size contractor from almost like a 1 or 2 man shop up to someone who's already got several $1 million in revenue and continue to support them through our ecosystem as we get as that contractor continues to grow.
So I was just reminded of one of the habits from a very good book that's been written in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Stephen Covey, right?
Exactly. He said,
Yep.
begin with the end in mind. And that's what I just heard from you is before I choose software, try to begin with the end in mind and work my way backwards so that I can understand how and when and where I need to do what. So a lot of times people get started, Jason, and then go, okay, now let's go in this direction. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, it's start at the end first, figure out what the goals are before we start trying to reverse engineer to find out where you're at today.
That's what I've been telling my sales team, teaching those guys that, hey, when you're working with someone who's looking to change softwares or adopt a software, what is their end goal? Where do they want to be? And do we have the resources internally to make it happen? And if we do, we're going to push them towards FieldEdge. And if we don't, we're going to say, hey, based on what you said, you might be a better fit for X, Y, and Z. Because ultimately, we want these guys to have a solution that helps them to achieve whatever their goals are over the next, 3, 5, 10 years.
Yeah. And coming from software solutions switching, I remember when I switched softwares in my business, and in fact, this is a chuckle. You'll get a chuckle out of this, Jason. I remember when we went to software period, right? So we had a software in the office, but we didn't have the field version. So everything was just paper invoices that we were using. In the old days, I don't know if there was a field software was kind of a weird thing. And I remember I used our field software from the old brick phone, Nextel phone,
Wow.
the old one that you could drop off the top of a house, right? The
Yep.
military grade one. I ran our very first field application software from one of those phones.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That
that's
doesn't date you
clunk.
at all.
That's clunky. That's clunky right there.
That's
But I
clunky.
fast
Yep.
forward and I look at today and I see how many more options are available for contractors, and that in itself could create some confusion because there's so many choices, right? There's not just one or two solutions today. So what do you feel like it is that FieldEdge is doing great at to support everything to be connected inside of the ecosystem of all the partners?
Yeah, I'm excited to, and this is not necessarily a formal announcement, but we have completely shifted our thinking at FieldEdge from being a closed environment over the years, meaning that it's been really hard to connect FieldEdge to other great partners in the industry and partners that you have at Blue Collar. And we've shifted our mindset this year to now an open API mindset. And so we are actually taking FieldEdge this year and completely opening up the software, starting with some key APIs. Think things like your jobs, your work orders, your customers, your leads, things that you need to get and potentially send that information to somewhere else for another company to help you. By the end of the year, we're hoping to have a large chunk of the software opened up, with even more opened up next year. So now that means that all these awesome vendors that are part of your program can now take their products and integrate it into our product, and we can send data back and forth, which just means that now contractors, because the thing that I noticed, Chris, is that even just 5, 6, 7 years ago, contractors were using one software. They might have a CRM style software like FieldEdge, and they probably have a QuickBooks or Sage or something like that. Now we find that on average, contractors are using between 4 to 5 different products. And a lot of times those products don't talk to each other. And so you can think of things like your marketing company or leads that are coming in for your marketing company. Now the AI conversation is everywhere. And what can AI do for us? And there's at least 500,000 AI companies that do the exact same thing in the industry now. And so if you have one that is doing something for you, does that have a way to connect to your CRM? And I think of the CRM or FieldEdge as the hub, and there's spokes that go off of it. And those should be the integrations in the ecosystem. And so we've been working really, really hard this year to build that out, and we're really close to launching our very first ever partner marketplace, which is the ability for our FieldEdge customers to pop in and see all of our different solutions internally and also external partners that we've worked with that are now connected to our platform. So I think the biggest way we're helping is just by making FieldEdge more open and accessible to everyone to connect in and grab that data and use it how they want to. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I just I just got off of a meeting with someone who's another partner who told me that they were working on their integration with you guys, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. That, just based on what you had just shared, which is we've kind of shifted our mindset on having an open API. I know that's going to
Huge.
really,
It's
really
huge,
excite.
Chris.
Yeah, it's going to be huge for you guys and huge for the user. Right now, the user actually has the ability to leverage their existing platform and use other platforms that doesn't make it clunky, right? And I think,
Mm-hmm.
it takes the clunkiness out of it when it integrates with each other. What do you think is, let's just kind of shift for a minute. When we look at like what does it mean when I say small business? Well, small business is all relative to whatever we're describing. But let's go to a smaller operator, several trucks. Just, I'm going to say under five trucks, a smaller company that could be under 5 trucks. And for the person that's grown past that small stage and phase in their business career, what do you think changes operationally for them? And then the better question is, how does software now become more critical at that stage?
I think you probably know this, and I can see your reaction already, but sometimes the biggest barrier to growth is the owner himself or herself of the
Mhm.
business. And as we transition from a very small business where you are directly involved day to day with every department in your business to now where you are overseeing a team who's directly involved with those different departments is a big shift for a lot of owners, especially owners that maybe haven't had a lot of experience running a business of that type. And so when I look at software, an owner of a, 3 or 4 man shop is actively involved in every department, and they're either overseeing it themselves or directly involved in the management of that department and probably the software side as well. You grow into a 10, 15 man shop, and now all of a sudden you've got managers doing that. And so now instead of being directly overseeing that, you're potentially just monitoring reports in the software, monitoring trends in the software, but now you've got to teach and coach your team members, your managers on how to be effective using the software products. And that's a big challenge for a lot of owners who have been for their entire life the core center of their business, but now they've grown enough to where they've got an operations manager, or they've got a really involved and knowledgeable service manager, and they've got to turn it over to them. And number one, they have to relinquish that control, but two, they have to be able to teach them how to use the products they have at the business to be able to run it. And that's challenging. And so I think having a good software in place, and especially a software that will help owners and teach and train them and their managers, is really key here.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. That whole, when I think about going in through growth phases, right? Different growth phases present new opportunities, and with new opportunities come new challenges. And the challenges that business owners face, for me, one of the things, the big ones that I see is removing myself from the ability to be so connected to everything. And, you know, example here at Blue Collar, we're a fully remote company. I have to rely upon software. I don't know another way. But I remember conversations that I've had with a few owners when I asked the question about how the CSR is booking and how do we know? And the answer is I sit in the same room with them.
Yeah.
That's how I know. But it's like
Mhm.
eventually that growth pattern is not going to work, and you're going to have to
Right.
start leveraging software, right? Maybe tell me a little bit about when you think about the evaluating of a software, whether it's I'm going to do software, because I just seen this just the other day. You know how Facebook groups work. Everybody's in a Facebook group and everybody gives free advice, and you know why it's
Mhm.
free, right? Of
Yep.
course, we know why it's free advice. But I like to use the word perspective, right? Just asking other people's perspective. And the question was, hey, I'm thinking about jumping on software. I'm all paper now. What software should I use? And what was funny is there was a list in all the comments of some softwares I'd never even heard of. I didn't even know existed, right? And there was all these lists. And I thought, now if I just took that, how would I still know what to go do?
That's hard. And, I think we can whittle the list down to you need to use a software that's been established in the market. You need to use a software that has strong industry connections, that has strong support, training, implementation departments, software that people know who to go to, whether it's through your OEM or distributor or through your coaching organization. They have to be able to help you. And some of these smaller softwares, while I do want them to be successful, obviously, you have to really gauge if it's your first time adopting a software, you need to rely on a product that's been in the market for a while. And so, if you're coming off of pen and paper, which I'm not sure how much of your client base is still on pen and paper.
But not, there's probably a handful, maybe just in maybe four or five at best.
That's a very difficult transition, less so on the software company side and more for the business internally because so many processes change. So much changes. What we see now more is the switchers market, people who are wanting to move software, one, because potentially they got bought out. New owner comes in and has a new product they want, or the software product they're using is older and is potentially located on a server in their office. They're wanting to move to the cloud, or maybe the product they're using is getting phased out or just isn't working for their new goals for the business. And so a switcher is different because they already have processes set up to use a software. And the big thing now is realizing that no matter who you switch to and what you do, the buttons you click and the processes you have day to day will change. There is
Mm,
no way to go from software A to software B and do the exact same thing in the exact same way. And the reason you want to switch software, the pain of that has to overcome the pain of realizing that all of your staff will have to click new buttons and do different things.
mm,
And a lot of times people don't realize that. They think, oh, I'm having a lot of issues with this, 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 and this. I'm going to switch softwares. They get into it and realize, oh, this is completely different. And the way I was doing something is different in the software. So, I also coach people who are wanting to move software that one, the pain has to be there. And two, you have to realize that when you switch, things will be different, and that's okay. You now need a software company that will train you and implement you. And I think that's a key difference between us and some other folks in the market is that we still have one-on-one onboarding, meaning that you're assigned one onboarder and you go through training with that onboarder. We don't do any kind of group trainings or classroom-based trainings for onboarding. Your trainings are with one person and you're assigned that person for the duration of onboarding, and that person does not have a quota to upsell you as well. They're there strictly to get your data converted and to train you and get you set up to use FieldEdge. And I think that's key because you have to realize the differences between the product you're on now and the product you're going to, and have someone be able to teach you the basics of that.
Mm.
And the final piece of that is no implementation of any software product is going to be complete. We're going to do enough to get you up and running, and we're going to give you the resources to be able to then go learn how to use it. And that's the key word there, is give you the resources so that you can go in and learn how to use the rest of the software, because you would be looking at super intensive 6-month process with one person to learn every bit of it. And so we get you up and running in a couple of months, but then you have all the help desk articles and videos and LMS tools to be able to teach your staff how to actually use the software. And
Mm.
so if your software product's not offering that level of support to you as you start, you have to imagine what's it going to be like trying to do this by yourself.
Gosh, as I shared with you, I went through a software change in 2015. It was a nightmare for me at that time, because of what you just said, which is how I operated my business was under an old software's platform, and I operated my business based on the way the platform worked. And I had to, because otherwise the software wouldn't do some of the things I needed it to do. But when we switched, it was like, I wouldn't say starting over again, but gosh, man, after team members are trained to, this is how you book a call in the system, this is how you find things in the system, this is how you pull a report in the system. No two softwares are going to be the same there. So technically, what we're managing is not just a software implementation, we're managing change.
Change management, there you go. That's it.
And we know that human beings love change, right?
Yeah, we are creatures of habit, that's for sure. We really are.
Oh gosh, I think about that from switching, switching phones. As crazy as it is. I just had a conversation. He said, "What kind of phone do you have?" And I told him, and he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But here's the funny thing: that same phone 4 years ago doesn't function the same way mine does today. And it's the
I believe it.
same phone,
I
right?
believe it.
Same
Yep.
platform, same phone. So even within softwares, sometimes softwares update and change as well. Jason, we didn't talk about this, but maybe tell me a little bit about some of the features of FieldEdge that you feel like set you guys apart.
Yeah, we're really a full management tool. So we have all the basics, your scheduling, your dispatching, your invoicing and quoting. I think we've got a couple of big um, tools built into FieldEdge that I think give us an edge. One is we own a product called HVAC Biz Pro, which is a good, better, best, or kitchen table selling tool. It's a company we purchased a couple of years ago, and it's fully built into FieldEdge now. It allows you to create these really beautiful proposals for your customers, including AHRI matchups and financing, and the ability to send reminders to their customers. And we just did a big renovation and complete overhaul of that product, and it's a really awesome tool that I think others don't have built into it. We also have a fully managed flat rate price book. It used to be called CoolFront, existed for a long time. It's now FieldEdge Flat Rate, but it is, especially for smaller shops, a fully managed price book where you don't have to worry about getting material prices from the supply house. All you've got to do is tell us your labor rate and your part markups, and we're going to be able to maintain that book for you. So you least that you know that your margins on your parts will be correct as you go forward, as you're growing. So we've got those two big tools in addition to what will eventually be a really nicely built out ecosystem so that companies can find other partners that potentially do something they want to do. I think that's going to give us a big edge in the market.
Gotcha. Tell me a little bit more about the book that's already built in. So that's not even an add-on. Is that correct? Is that just a part of
It,
the
it just
platform?
depends. We sell FieldEdge in 3 different package levels, typically depending on the contractor's needs and the size. But the flat rate book is built into one of our packages, or it's an add-on to some of our smaller packages.
I gotcha.
But it's basically a fully managed book where our team goes into the various OEMs and some of the distributors and pull MSRP pricing out every couple of weeks so that the prices are consistent with the national average for what for parts would be. And then as you set the book up, you're determining, what labor rate are we charging, what after hours rate, agreement rate are we charging, and then what markup profile do we want to have for these parts, and we can customize that for you. And any kind of additional little flat ad you want to put in there to cover any difference in margin. And then all of a sudden now your techs have a fully built out book where they can just search for a part number, and that'll bring up the flat rate code that includes labor and markups. So it's a great tool for especially those smaller shops who aren't tracking inventory, who don't have a way to really keep an eye on these markups as they're going through their day to day.
And it just out of curiosity, Jason, forgive me for not knowing. I feel a little ignorant to that, but does that book include HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, or is it
It does.
whatever your trade is?
So it does include all the books. We have a residential HVAC book, a commercial HVAC book that goes up to about 18 ton into commercial ones, so nothing really too heavy in there. And then we've got a residential plumbing book and a residential electrical book in there. The
Sweet.
HVAC book and plumbing books are pretty built out. Electrical ones are a bit more bare bones.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I happen to know an electrician might be able to help you guys with that. So
That'd be cool. Yeah.
let me know if you guys are interested.
Perfect.
Well, Jason, tell me a little bit, if we could, of just give me a quick rundown of FieldEdge. I know we talked a little bit about some differences, and then I also want to talk about how people can get a hold of you as well.
Yep, absolutely. So I think the ideal customer for FieldEdge, we actually require you to have at least one person in the office. FieldEdge is not designed for one-man shows. We are designed to have an office employee who is at least doing the bulk of the administrative work, whether
Mm.
they are picking up the phone and scheduling or they're handling the admin work for you. It's designed to be used in the office. So just keep that in mind, depending on the size of your company. We work well with shops up to 20, 30 paid or service technicians. And we have shops quite a bit bigger than that, but our ideal is going to be anywhere from now, 1-in-1 up to, 20 or 30 for the size. We also require that contractors use QuickBooks because one of the biggest benefits we have over any other software on the market is that our QuickBooks API to QuickBooks Online and our QuickBooks connector to QuickBooks Desktop is a two-way connection, and the information that flows back and forth between the systems is quite robust. Because of that, we actually cannot use FieldEdge without a connection to QuickBooks because there's so much data that goes back and forth in the background that makes there's no batching, there's no posting, but the information that flows over to QuickBooks is already pre-assigned in a lot of ways to prevent those errors, and so we have to have a connection to QuickBooks. As long as you've got the size, at least one person in the office, and you've got QuickBooks, then you definitely qualify to use FieldEdge. We can scale with your business all the way up to, again, when you get quite large, and which is typically larger than a lot of folks' goals. And so FieldEdge would be a great solution for you as you continue to grow the business.
Awesome. I know that all the interaction I've ever had with you or anyone on your team just always been as pleasant as it could possibly be. Any final kind of thoughts, Jason, before we get your contact information out?
Nope, I don't think so. I think the big thing for contacting me, we always want the coaches to be involved. We want you guys to feel like you have a say in your clients as the software gets transitioned because it will affect what your coaches do on a day-to-day basis. So if you're watching this, feel free to reach out to your coach. They can connect through Janet or one of the members of your team with me, or you can call or email me directly, and I can say that information out loud here, or I can give it to you guys later on your marketing side as well.
Well, let me also say this, that as members, remember that membership does have its privileges. And so if you find located over on the left-hand side, you're going to see the vault. Once you're in the vault, you're going to see over there Elite Buy and the vendor partners. When you click on that, you're going to scroll down. You're going to find FieldEdge, and you're going to find all the amazing benefits along with their contact information that you can find it there. However, Jason, for those that may be watching this video that do not have access to that, or maybe they're even a non-member, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Jatha at fieldedge.com, so JATHA at fieldedge.com, or 404-482-0053. Text me, please. I get a million spam calls, but 404-482-0053. I'm happy to route you to the right person or give you some more information.
And that 404, that's that Atlanta number. I
The
know
Atlanta
that one.
number. That's
Got
right.
the Atlanta number. And I remember you guys have your headquarters in Atlanta, and you guys
Sure
also
do.
have a location in Fort Myers as well, right?
We had it for a long time, but do you remember that big hurricane that came through Fort Myers? It actually demolished our office down there. And
Oh,
so
wow. I did not
instead of
realize that.
instead of rebuilding, it was told to us that the best option would be to just go ahead and sell the property because it was up to the second story of that building when that hurricane came through. So we've got our primary office. We've now in Buckhead. We've got everything consolidated around that. It's a beautiful, beautiful 19th floor office there in Buckhead.
Nice. And maybe Jason, I didn't think about this, but next time I'm in town, I'll just look you guys up. I'd like to swing by and see the
Call me.
office.
I'd love giving tours of that. I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Cool. So you got all the contact information for Jason, his team, and FieldEdge. Jason, any final thoughts before we depart here today?
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity. This has been great, and I really hope that we can help out folks who are watching this who are potentially looking at moving. I hope we can be a resource for you guys and for your coaches as well.
Perfect. Well, we couldn't have a vendor voice without a fun facts finale. So, Jason, if you will, buckle up, strap up. I'm going to ask you a series of questions here, Jason, that are just rapid fire about you. Helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. You ready? We'll start
Let's
with
do it.
this. If you could only keep one streaming service forever, which one would it be?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. There's a lot on Amazon Prime too, isn't there?
Sure
Jeez,
is.
it seems like everything I look for, I'm like, oh, it's there. Sports are there.
That's right.
Next question. If your house was on fire and you can only grab three things, family and pets are already safe, what would you take?
Laptop. I've got a safe that has passport and all the important documents,
Okay.
and then I've got a box that's got some family memorabilia in it. I grab those three things.
Gotcha. Okay. What's a childhood food that you still secretly or not so secretly still love?
Listen, it's ice cream. I have no, if anyone who knows me knows that I have a big sweet tooth. So you give me, I can't help myself. I'll eat, I will not stop eating it.
All right, great. So coffee or tea, and then is there a wrong way to prepare either one?
Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon, and no, it's personal preference. Whatever you like, enjoy it.
I gotcha. And then this might be a cool one, but what is the weirdest food that you've ever tried, and would you eat it
Uh,
again?
I'm a foodie for sure, and so I've had some weird things. I think the weirdest thing I probably had is sea urchin, and it was disgusting. And so there are some people who like it, but I cannot stand the taste of it. It's gross.
Oh, okay, great. This is the last one, Jason. I'm going to ask, if your life was a documentary, who would you choose to play your role in the documentary?
Oh man. I got to pass on that one. I can't think of something that quickly. I was thinking something like I don't know. I'm the worst at picking out names.
Well, how about this? Since you're a foodie, does pineapple belong on pizza? Yes or no?
Um, my personal opinion is no, but I will say whatever you enjoy, enjoy it to the fullest.
There you go. You heard it best from Jason. He said it doesn't belong there, but if you enjoy it, have at it. So, Jason, thank you so much, my friend, for joining in for another Vendor Voice. And for those that are watching, thank you again so much for always being interested in knowing what's going on with our vendor partners, hearing from our vendor partners about their services, but other things that impact your business, help you build and grow your business. Jason, thank you so much for being in here today. And we'll see you guys again on our next Vendor Voice. Until then, take care and be well. Hey, you're either winning or you're learning. I just want to take an opportunity to say thank you for watching this video. For more videos like this, we want you to go ahead and subscribe to our channel and watch the next video that's about to play.